Greetings, comrades. Greetings to North Carolina. And I'm just coming off the heels of this really tremendous, conference we had in Durham, where our party really poured some resources, the little resources we have, very tremendous comrades, for the vision to help us build the Southern Regional Party Conference. And so, coming off the conference, a lot of the comrades and the folks were struggling with there. We were able to really look at the conditions and look at what's really needed in the South. And really looking and analyzing the current crisis of U.S. capitalism as a whole and the various features of overproduction that are causing major, massive social, crises for workers. As analysis of Comrade Fred's book explains very well. We must recognize the strategic role of the U.S. South for global restructuring the global capitalist production, global strategy. Without the serious concentration of forces and of resources by the left in helping to develop the political and organizational and ideological character of the working class in the South, the black working class, the consciousness and the entire consciousness of the U.S. South, we're going to be unable to overthrow capitalism, unable to establish this fight for socialism. And our party has understood that historically. It's been parts of many important struggles in the South, continuing today. We actually want to welcome some new friends of the party, Dustin and Keith from Birmingham, Alabama. And of course, two young sisters we brought Sister Juanette from Raleigh and Elisa from Durham, two fighters, young fighters, and their jobs there. It's been a difficulty of the left of understanding the centrality of the U.S. South, and particularly of the struggle for self-determination of African Americans in the U.S. South. And it's an important vital aspect of the revolutionary struggle of workers' power to dismantle and transform the U.S. imperialist state. As comrades know, as we talked about, the majority of black folks in the country, 55%, live in the U.S. South, in the 12 states of the U.S. South, representing over 20% of the population of over 90 million people, 20% of which are black folks in the South. Mexican and Latino folks, of course, being 16 million, representing a large proportion as well. Go back into the 80s, 1982 to 1985, corporations, major corporations in the core U.S. industries like auto and steel in the Midwest and the Northeast launched a campaign forcing unionized workers to grant concessions in areas of over $150 billion by some estimates. And what these corporations did was threaten to relocate to the U.S. South, of course, before they went further south, to force the unions and to force the workers to give these concessions. And hundreds of millions more hundreds of millions more was used to force the cities and the states in the South was used to put up against the unions to lure these corporations into the South, which has always been a historic region of underdevelopment. And North Carolina, as you probably know, at one time was one of the most industrialized states in the South, where we're from. But the U.S. South currently still does play it's a major region still of foreign divestment, of direct investment, not just of U.S. corporations, but actually foreign economic investment plays a major role. In 2003, in Alabama and Florida and Georgia, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Virginia alone, over 20% of all foreign direct investment within those states, making the U.S. a major region for the global U.S. capitalist economy. Alabama, for example, currently has more than 300 foreign-owned manufacturers there, from more than 30 nations. Just in Alabama, 4 major auto manufacturers: Hyundai, Mercedes, and Toyota, all in Alabama. Southern states bid against each other to lure these major U.S. corporations and foreign corporations into their states. Louisiana and Alabama are in a bidding war currently for a German steel company. It is reported that an incentive package offered by both exceeds $1 billion of state government funds right now in major, huge state budget crisis is offering $1 billion to lower this company. Major financing of these corporations and incentives in the South comes from the state and local governments. As a result, the social development throughout the South, protecting the black belt areas where black people have a large concentration, continues to lag behind in poor housing, poor schools, poor roads, ground wells, levees, bridges, hospitals. This makes the South very vulnerable to national man-made hurricane disasters such as Hurricane Katrina and Floyd that happened recently. With the capitalist restructuring has eliminated 5 million U.S. manufacturing jobs over the past decade, and production has increased by industrial technology. Although industrial remains a core sector for the development of the U.S. economy. I'm going to shift some, particularly to, I have less than 2 minutes left, to talk about the work we're doing in North Carolina. And I hope this, a lot of this information and the struggle and the stuff from our comrades in Black Workers for Justice, who in 1981 laid the foundation with a community-based organization throughout 10 counties in North Carolina to form the North Carolina Public Service Workers Union. And it was their perspective with the cornerstone and a political program that recognized the centrality of black workers. That went into auto plants and industries and large concentrations of black workers and helped to recognize and build the trade union consciousness and understood that it would be narrow if they only oriented towards economic issues and didn't address structural racism that saw black workers being victimized by super exploitation and denial of basic democratic rights and union rights. This year actually represents the 20th anniversary of the formations of the struggle of UE 150 in North Carolina. And as you currently know, I'm the lead organizer of a major campaign organizing Department of Health and Human Services, which is, of course, for mental health and psychiatric and developmental disability and substance abuse, and which have been facing major cuts. They're trying to close one of the only state psychiatric hospitals in Raleigh. They've been trying to close it for 10 years. Because of the workers' struggle, we've been able to keep it open. We're moving patients out and moving them, closing down this facility and want to have it completely shut down near Thanksgiving. And this represents, of course, this hospital is overwhelmingly black workers, overwhelmingly black patients. And the crisis, of course, disproportionately affecting, as all public services, but as well as healthcare community at large. And so we've been launching the last few years a major campaign, very much modeled after the domestic workers campaign, which they won this historic battle for the domestic workers Bill of Rights here in the state of New York. It's a major battle in California and other places. And other workers, as you know, they're excluded from protections, labor protections. Domestic workers, agriculture workers are also large sectors of the working class, largely black in the U.S. South, which because of Taft-Hartley in 1947 and other labor laws have created right-to-work laws, but even worse in North Carolina, a proactive law that actively denies workers the right to collectively bargain, to have a union contract. We were actively organizing against, one of the only states in the country, along with Virginia. And so this, of course, this is a direct attack on black workers in the city of Charlotte and black workers in other places organizing in their workplaces in the 50s during an all-white legislature in 1959 when this law was put on the books. And so we launched this major campaign for a mental health workers' Bill of Rights, very much like the domestic workers' Bill of Rights, where we're fighting for the fundamental conditions and rights, human rights of the workers to be recognized, directly up against these major budget cuts. And there's a lot I could go into it, but we understand, and so connecting these workers along with the community struggle, we understand it as a vital necessity, particularly in the South, where the underdevelopment of unions, the social underdevelopment of any social organizations, whether it's tenants organizations or any student organizations. And so the role we're playing is to continue to fight directly up against, the capitalist their initiatives to further cut and balance the budget on the backs of workers and the community. So organize the South, build a workers'